It's postseason time. This is what we've been looking forward to. And, it's static with our draw. It's something that we set out from day one. One of our goals to mark off our checklist and how we wanted to be able to draw, to be able to host a super regional, potentially a super regional. And we put ourselves in a position to be able to do so. So we are absolutely ecstatic. We get to play in front of our home crowd. Excited about the opportunity, really excited for the atmosphere that we're going to create, and we're just looking to go one game at a time.
Larissa, when you look at, obviously the past regionals you guys have been to, you guys are on quite a streak of making a regional for this program. What's something maybe you've been hammering home with your players this week that you've maybe learned from those past regionals that you want to take into this one to find that success?
The biggest thing is, it's the cliche. It's one pitch at a time. It's one game at a time. But that's really what we learned towards the end of our SEC run. Going into that South Carolina weekend, and we know we were 0-7 on game 3, and we needed to figure out why. So we had a lot of talk within the team and our coaching staff on what has changed on game 3 and what kind of different mentality we had on game 3, and we recognized that game 3 we were focused on the sweep and we were focused on the result and not the process. And that was really the mindset that changed going into that South Carolina weekend. And really what we did going through the entire SEC tournament is just focus on the process, and it's every single at bat and get ourselves on time and attacking every single pitch for our pitchers. And if we do that throughout 7 innings, we're going to put ourselves in a much better position to be able to be successful and win. So that's what we need to do moving forward. We can't look ahead to game 2 or 3. We got to focus on Omaha right now and attacking them. And then after that game is completed, then we focus on our next opponent and what we need to do to be successful.
Larissa, you guys have been so good on the road this year. Are there any principles to how you played away from home that you ironically look to apply this weekend when you're at home and trying to advance?
Yeah, the biggest thing is having a routine. And that's probably the most challenging hosting when you have 3 other teams in your neck of the woods, in your backyard, having to be able to share facilities, having different warm-up times, not being able to have your home game routine. So even though we get to sleep in our own beds, we're treating it like we are on the road. And we're not warming up on our field. We're going to be warming up in Devine. So it's going to create kind of an away from home mentality and atmosphere that we need to stay disciplined to.
Larissa, obviously one of those teams coming is Omaha. You're going to see a familiar face over there, Emma Robbie. I got to talk to Emma the other day. What was special about Emma, in the 4 years she was here, and kind of tell me about, the experience, maybe seeing her in the opposite dugout this time.
I'm so proud of her, and I was proud of her when she was here. She was one of those, like, not that I'd ever want to publicly admit this, but coaches do have favorite players, and Emma's one of those that always did the right thing. She was the vocal person, always gave me positive and constructive feedback, was always honest in her evaluation of the team and what we needed to do as coaches. And I'm just so proud that she's now growing the game. It isn't another dugout, but it's about growing the game and what she's giving back to softball and what she's giving back to her players. I think it's really special for her to experience her first regional coaching at Mizzou. It's kind of like a full circle moment, and I know it's probably going to be emotional for her to be in that other dugout and then playing against her alma mater. But again, like, I'm so proud of what she's accomplished and what she's doing for the game.
She told me she texted you and asked you who you're pitching. Did you respond?
Yeah. Yeah, nice try, Emma. Yeah, we're not that close right now. We're definitely enemies going on to the next 3 or 4 days.
Larissa, what's your sense of where your team's at, kind of frame of mind going into this? I mean, obviously, postseason, everybody's excited about the opportunity, but you're viewed obviously is supposed to come out of this thing and go on.
We're in a really good headspace. Monday we had a good, easy workout because we just had a really grueling week at the SEC tournament. So we had some individual skill work, and then Tuesday, pretty similar, but with some team practice. And we had a real good team meeting Tuesday, and kind of let's reflect back onto this past week. And what did you like about the SEC tournament and the experiences? Because we had a lot of players that was the first time that they experienced that atmosphere. And then did you feel anything different on Saturday? We didn't have the win. So let's just talk about that, what we experienced going through that. And the biggest thing that they said is they just felt so confident. And that's a great feeling for them to admit, and it showed in how they played. And we've been practicing very loose, a lot of fun. I don't see that they're uptight, because when you host and you're a top 8 seed, you are expected to win. And a lot of times teams respond that they're trying to do too much and they feel that pressure, but we're just going to go out and have a good time. And Maddie Gallagher said it really well in our locker room. And she said, you know, it's the first time that she didn't have to play on Tuesday in the SEC tournament. So she felt like she already accomplished something, going in as a 5 seed. And she just wanted to have a blast being able to do so. And that's really the mindset that we're going forward is, let's have a lot of fun doing what we're doing, because we love being around each other. We're having a real good time, and let's just stay together as a team as long as we possibly can.
Coach, looking at this weekend on Friday, the pitcher you're likely to face is Cameron Meyer. She's one of the more dominant pitchers in the sport. What impresses you the most about her, and how do you plan on attacking what she's going to throw at y'all probably on Friday?
To be brutally honest, right now, my focus is on their hitters, since I am calling the game. So I will spend the rest of this evening looking at all 3 teams and all their hitters. And then when I've completed with that, then I start to focus on the opposing pitchers. Coach Cottrell spends all his time with the pitchers and their preparation. So I really can't give you a very educated response, other than the name of the game is always swing at good pitches. Like, it's to get on time, it's to swing at good pitches. Don't make the good pitchers better than they already are. There's a reason why they're good, because they get hitters to chase balls. So we just have to control the strike zone.
When you see
How
someone like her that, like, she went a 14 inning complete game. I mean, as somebody who coaches pitching, what does that tell you about her?
That she's tough. And ironically, after that game, and I was following the entire Summit League championship because of Emma Robbie. Immediately after I saw that win, I reached out to her and congratulated her. And she just told me about what a gutsy performance it was. And she just reached complete exhaustion at the end and just broke down in tears. And one of the stories I've always told our teams is that when you exhaust everything physically and mentally and emotionally into an athletic performance, you have nothing left but to cry. And Emma said, I witnessed it for the first time, and I'm so proud of this athlete to be able to do so. So it's special that Emma and I shared that moment, but it just tells me a lot more about the type of pitcher that she is, that she's not going to want to come out of the game. Like, she's going to give us every ounce of energy that she has in order to compete. And we have to not only match her energy, but get her uncomfortable.
You mentioned on Sunday some of these smaller schools, mid-majors coming into this tournament with the chip on their shoulder. And I mean, you know what it's like to come into this place as the team that's got no expectations on you. So how dangerous is a team like that in Omaha?
And, ironically, it was 11 years ago today that my team at Hofstra ended up here at Mizzou to play the University of Missouri, the old university field. So brought back a lot of memories. Mid-majors know how to win, because they have to win their conference tournament to get here. So they experience that thrill and that rush and that anxiety and excitement of playing in that championship game and holding up the trophy. A lot of Power Fives don't even get to experience that. We do, because we've been in that championship game, so we know what that feeling's like, but there's a ton of others that have never been there. We have to expect that. We've already talked about that. We know that they're going to come in here and would like nothing better than to have a great outing and a great performance. So we have to immediately disrupt their comfort level and make them very uncomfortable by either the speed of the game, the intensity of the atmosphere, how hard we're playing, making great plays, getting on the board early. So then it diminishes their confidence. The more you let a mid-major team hang around, the more they believe that they can actually win.
Abby Hay, I know she's made a lot of adjustments, especially at the plate from baseball to softball, but what does she bring from baseball that's been to her advantage, especially this year?
She probably knows the game within the game better than anybody I've ever coached. She understands some of those intangibles and the rhythm and the speed and direction better than anybody. She, against really good teams and well-coached teams that are calling the game, she has a very internal sense on the type of pitches and how she's going to be thrown. She would never be able to articulate it to you, but because she's watched so much baseball, she understands how pitchers are trying to get her out, and she makes those adjustments. Like, she knows that if a pitcher's going wide and trying to get her to lean over, that they're eventually going to come back inside. Like, those are the types of things that it really takes years to be able to develop, and she's so much further ahead of the curve because of how much she's been around the game.
I know at this point you're used to weeks like this and doing this, but how do you divide up okay, we've got to scout Omaha and know everything about them, but we've also got to be ready for, we don't know who we're going to play the next day.
You prepare for everybody, like our coaching staff, and our coaching staff's divided up about, and we've been doing this all year long, on who is responsible for what. So I'm responsible for scouting every single hitter. So I'm looking at all three teams, and I'll start with Omaha, and then I've already completed Indiana, and then I go to Washington. So all three teams will have a full scouting report. So I'm ready for anything. Jeff Cottrell does the opposing pitchers. Olivia Forshee, she's also breaking down the pitchers with tendencies and analytics. Molly Jacobson is breaking down the opposing pitchers if they're tipping anything, and Sarah's looking at defensive shifts and system when we're working with that. So our game plan going forward doesn't change. We've scouted 3 teams at a time before. When we play our postseason, we're having to scout 5. So it's a little bit more than SEC because you're only worried about one, but being able to play at home gives us a lot more time to be able to get a real good in-depth look. That's something else we talked about with the team isn't it so nice not to have it get on a bus and head down to Oklahoma? Because that's what we were having to do last year at this time. So being able to stay home and to get that extra day of practice has been really helpful.
You've had difficult regionals before. Where does this one rank? When you got a Washington team that's been ranked throughout the year, Indiana's been ranked, and Omaha is regarded as one of the best mid-major arms, and Cameron Meyer. What was your reaction when you saw these teams coming to your place?
Honestly, Eric, at the time, I wasn't focused at all about who we were playing. It was more about the 7th seed and hosting. That was the excitement. And then as I dig into it and I start looking at RPIs and I start looking about where everybody is, I'm like, really? We're a 7 seed. You think it'd be a little bit easier? Thanks, guys. And then I go into and I talk to administration on, what? I wish they would seed 32. And I understand, like, there's a lot of different things that come into play on why people end up where they do. And if they seeded 32, things would probably be a little bit differently. But you know what? I have no control over those things, and the game doesn't care. And we just got to go out and we got to compete. And, I could list the number of teams regionals that we've been sent to, and OU and UCLA and Arizona and, on and on. And the game doesn't care. And I think what's really great about this is that our sport is so strong, and there really isn't an easy regional. Like, when you look at 13 out of 13 SEC teams are in the regionals, and you have the ACC and the Pac-12 and the Big 12, like, every single regional is competitive.
Well,
Go
there's gonna be
ahead, Eric.
Yeah, no, I was going to say there's also a lot of intrigue in this regional, to the point where the great Monica Abbott has been assigned to do color commentary for your regional. That's got to mean a lot when you got one of the greatest names in the sport. They're putting an assignment in this regional. It tells you how important this regional and interested people are in this regional.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I hear that our bowl of our stadium, our grandstand of our stadium was sold out before our tickets even went public, like, that's pretty awesome.
Coach, you already mentioned how your team's in a pretty good headspace. How much does having a group of veterans that have been here before, that have been in these big time postseason games before, how much does that help you guys in terms of maintaining steady emotions, especially when excitement and anticipation is pretty high?
It's something that it's been common language from day one that everyone stepped foot on campus this year, in the best experiences that they've ever had as a Mizzou softball player. And they're always referring to regionals and super regionals in 2021. And the freshmen are working to have that experience again, so then they can tell those stories 2, 3, 4 years from now. Our program is set up that it doesn't matter if we're taking a ground ball in our stadium or Oklahoma City or in Devine, it's still a ground ball. So we don't want to make this regional any bigger than it already is. We already know the expectations and we already know what's at stake. But we still need to play one pitch at a time. And if we stay focused on those types of things, then you don't get caught up in what this pitch means and the pressure behind the pitch, because the pitch doesn't have a brain and it doesn't know what's at stake. So we got to make sure that we execute and take care of the ball.
Awesome. Thank you so much,
Cool.
Coach.